What no one tells you about buying residential acreages. Today's topic is what you need to know, what do a lot of people overlook, and what mistakes are we trying to help you avoid when looking to buy residential acreages. Today's topic we're going to focus on in Central Alberta. I'm going to highlight some of Red Deer and Central Alberta's finest residential acreages around Red Deer. And there are a lot of them, and they're all a little bit different, and they're all beautiful in their own way. So whether you're looking for an acre, 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres, I got you covered. I'm the residential acreage expert in Central Alberta. So if this is your first time to our channel, please hit like and subscribe and you get notifications every time we come out with a new video. My name is Jason Walls, along with my wife and partner, Shalane Walls. We're the Walls Real Estate Group. We get calls, texts, and emails from people like you every single day looking to move to Central Alberta. Whether you're making the move in 9 days, 90 days, or a year from now, we're gonna be here. We get calls and texts every single day from people, and we love to help out the best we can. So please hit the like and subscribe button below and you'll get notifications. So as I mentioned, today I want to cover some of the topics that a lot of people just don't understand. Everybody loves the appeal of the acreages where you get the wide open spaces, whether you want to have some animals, whether you want to start a business, whether you want to have a shop, depending on the size and location of it, there's a lot of things to know about acreages. Whether you've got municipal water, municipal sewer, whether you've got a septic in a tank field, a septic in a mound, water wells, all these things that people have to know about acreages. I'm going to talk to you about them today, but I also want to pop on to our video and show you not only some beautiful drone shots of the subdivisions around Red Deer, but also where they're located and just give you a little bit of information about all these subdivisions. So if you're making the move to Central Alberta and you want an acreage, I'm going to be able to help you out. I can give you the good and the bad of all the areas and just give you some ideas on what you're looking for. We love to hear from you. We love to hear what you're looking for, and then we can better service you. We can better help you find the acreage you're looking for, and that will meet your needs, and we'll get you the exact acreage that you want. So the first thing, guys, is zoning. And I know we maybe mentioned this in the past if you've seen any of our videos, but the zoning is a key factor when it comes to any of the acreages. So there's different zoning. Ag is used for larger acreages, and an ag zoned acreage is better if you want to do a business, or obviously if it's larger and you want to do a little bit of farming or you want to have some animals, then an ag zoned acreage is absolutely key. If you get something that's, for example, a country residential zoning, then you've got more restrictions on obviously the size. They're typically a smaller range from 1 to 3 acres. And not only that, but you'll also have a restriction as to if you want to run a business. So whether you got a trucking shop, a mechanic shop, carpentry, any of the other businesses that are commonly used in acreages, if it's zoned country residential, there's a lot more restrictions. And so when we start looking, we really want to know what your end goal is, and we want to be able to help you and make sure we're looking for the right zoning. We always, and I mean always, want to make sure that the zoning is correct. Now, I'm not saying that if we find that perfect acreage and it's maybe zoned incorrectly, we can talk to the county and try and get a zoning adjustment made. It's not very easy, and so obviously if we do know what you're looking for, it's much easier to look at an acreage that's already zoned properly. Another thing that people always ask about is animals. So of course, everybody loves their furry friends, and when you get an acreage, then there's lots more options about it. So if you're looking for horses, chickens, goats, cows, that kind of stuff, you have to be more careful. It's got to be at least 3 or more acres to allow any of the larger animals. If you want some chickens or rabbits or your dogs and cats, those acreage sizes can be whatever size you want. But if you're looking for the larger furry animal friends that you want to have on there, you've got to go with a larger one. So typically it's 2+. So I always tell clients 3 acres to 5 acres, you'll probably get to have a couple horses or a couple cows, llamas, whatever it is you're looking for. If you want some exotic animals, you can always look at those as well. But typically people are wanting to have a couple horses or maybe a couple sheep or goat, things like that. So I always tell people over 3 acres. If you want to have larger animals, then usually it's over 5 acres. So that you have more fencing, more pasture, and so there's more accessibility, and the animals will have more feed with the grass and pasture, depending on the outline of the acreage, whether it's all grass or whether it's hilly, along the riverbanks, stuff like that. So there's a lot of considerations to make, but typically anything over 5 acres, you're allowed to have the larger animals on. Now, I mentioned this in the opening comments, but a lot of acreages will have their own water wells and their own septic systems. So if you're buying existing acreage, you really want to make sure when you're making that offer that one, you get the water tested, which is really important, especially most lenders will absolutely require that you have the water analysis done before they'll do the lending. But you really want to find out what the depth of the well is, what the gallons per minute of the well is, the water quality, whether you need an iron removal system, whether there's a sulfur smell, or whether it's hard water, soft water. So there's a lot of variables go into water wells. You want to make sure, especially if it's a larger acreage and you have some animals, that you've got enough water for the animals, you've got enough water to, if you're going to have a big garden, that kind of stuff. So water quality is a big thing. And also, obviously, the septic system is a big thing. So if it's existing, you want to make sure you get your septic tank tested, inspected before you make your purchase. So you want that to be a condition of the purchase. You want to see if it's a concrete tank or a fiberglass tank. Concrete tanks, they will disintegrate over time. They can be rebuilt. Lots of times it's just as easy or as economical to replace them. You want to make sure that you've got a field that's not saturated, or some of the older grandfathered acreages, they have open discharge, and that can be acceptable still in this day if it's a large enough acreage, but it has to be, I think it's over 10 acres to have an open discharge. And a lot of acreages nowadays are having a tank and a mound. And so the mound is a better system than what the field is, depending on what the soil conditions are. If it's a clay soil base, then obviously it's not as drainage as well as if it's a sandy soil. So there's so many variables with the septic systems that you want to make sure that you're looking after that. Now, there's a couple subdivisions that I'm going to highlight today a little bit later in the video, just when we do the map thing. And those subdivisions are all smaller. They're like 1 to 3 acres. And a lot of those subdivisions are going to have municipal water and municipal sewer. So that is something that you don't need to look for or worry about then. But most acreages around Red Deer do have their own water and their own septic. So those are really expensive things to fix, and they're expensive things to consider if you're buying a bare land quarter that you're going to build on. But the nice thing when you do that, you can put them exactly where you want. They know, you know they're new, and you'll probably be trouble-free for many, many years after that. So just things to look out for, that if you don't know anything about acreages, you may not understand how that works. And so it's really important to take those into consideration. And I guess just to finish on that, when I talk about expenses, I don't like to throw numbers around because there's so many variables. But just if people are asking about it, I always like to tell people that a failed septic system could be between $10,000 to $50,000. And a water well, depending on how deep it is, or if you drill a successful well, those can be $10,000 to $25,000. So I don't like to throw numbers around, but if people don't understand what the costs are, those are some rough numbers. And certainly if we're looking to buy an acreage that maybe needs a new water well or needs a new septic system put into it, we would go around to some of our qualified companies that we trust and know that do a very good job, and we would get you a more qualified quote prior to writing an offer. Or if we find out that during the inspection of the acreage, which is also something I'll touch on today that is absolutely vital to have done, then we can either negotiate a lower price for the buyer, or sometimes if it's our acreage that we've listed, then we'll try and get that fixed within the purchase price before possession. So there's many different ways we can look at it, but those are things to consider. The next thing I always wanted to talk about with people when we're looking at acreages is accessibility and how far it is off the road. Now, so many people, when they want an acreage, they want to be off the main roads. They want the peace and the quiet. There's other people that want an acreage that's based right on the highways because they don't want the dirty vehicles or the dusty vehicles from the gravel roads. So those are things we have to take a look at. But one thing you have to also consider is if it's a bare acreage and you're wanting to build on it, that road cost is going to really add up quickly. Or if it's already existing, then you have to look at what that is going to cost you as far as buying a piece of equipment for the snow plowing in the wintertime. Because everybody knows in Central Alberta, we'd always get the snow, we always get the drifts, and you can't just be driving over it unless you've got a big 4x4, which lots of us have in Central Alberta. But it is something to take into consideration, is how far off the road it is, not only just for accessibility for yourself, but for people that are coming out. If, for instance, if you have an emergency, can an ambulance come in, or a fire truck if it's all snow blowing in, things like that. So you really want to take the accessibility of your acreage into consideration, not only just for yourself, but for others, And when we're looking at acreages, a lot of people buy them right from, May, even April to the end of the fall season. But we also sell acreages in the wintertime. And so when you're looking at them in the summertime, they're beautiful, they're green, they're lush. You don't think about what it's going to look like, in February, January, when it's snowing and blowing and the drifts are all coming in. So it's really important to take a look at that accessibility within how you're going to get in and what you have to have in place to make sure that that's not an issue. Now, we talked a little bit at the beginning about restrictions on building. So if you get an acreage that has country residential zoning, you can still have a shop, or sometimes maybe just a larger garage than maybe what you'd have within the towns or cities around us. But there are going to be building restrictions. So if you get acreages zoned ag, then typically those are larger acreages and you can have a larger shop. And a lot of people that want to have an acreage want to run their home-based business out of it. And so if you find one that's already established, already has that beautiful shop, then that's perfect. But if you're looking to build one, then one of the conditions we always make sure we put into any offer is county approval for that existing shop that you're wanting to put in. And so then we always talk to the county, we give them our proposed plans, we give them the MLS number, all that kind of stuff. The seller can sometimes give us a little bit of input, but lots of times the buyer will have to go talk to the county and just make sure that they're able to get the plans approved that they're hoping to do. And so that's really something that's important to make sure you put into every offer, and that's not always done. And then at the end, we don't want any surprises about not being able to build what you're hoping to build. The next item I kind of want to talk about is just future development and hidden deal breakers. So if you're buying an acreage and it's in a subdivision that already has other acreages, lots of times there's already a plan for the subdivision as a whole, but you always don't know what's going on in the field behind you. Will there be another subdivision built? Will there maybe be some other commercial buildings built? If you're close to town, there is a real chance that something like that will be built around you. If you're farther out of the town or in some of these other beautiful subdivisions that I'll highlight in a few minutes, then those are really well established, and you're probably going to be looking at farmers' fields, and you'll see the wheat and the canola grow every year, and the combines and the seeders come out every year, and that's exactly what a lot of people are looking for. So you really want to make sure that you know what the restrictions are, what the future development plans are, and just find out if there's any hidden deal breakers that you may not know. And again, we do a lot of research, so you don't have to, as Shalane always says. But it's really important for both myself and the buyer to go talk to the county together and just find out what exactly is planned for around the neighborhood, and make sure that there's not going to be any surprises for you afterwards. Because you certainly don't want that beautiful pasture or that beautiful cropland to all of a sudden have a development started on it 2 or 3 years after you moved in, and you had no idea that was going to happen, and then all of a sudden your perfect quiet paradise is not perfect quiet paradise anymore. So you don't want surprises, and then you don't want to have to make a move unless of course it's something that you want. But we try to do all the research we can. We don't want you to have any surprises. We want everything to be calculated, and be rest assured that you're buying the property that is exactly the right fit for you and that you're going to love for many, many years to come. So just kind of in summary, before we get looking at the different subdivisions around Red Deer in Central Alberta, buying an acreage is very exciting, but it's also one of the most complex real estate transactions that we deal with. There is always a lot of moving parts in every sale, whether it's residential, condo, commercial. But I've found whether you're buying farmland or acreages, there's just more moving parts that you really have to take a look at. Not everybody knows all the details and the things that have to be looked at, whether it's the inspections, whether it has to be the zoning, whether it has to be future development, all the things we've already just touched on briefly. You really have to make sure you do your due diligence. And there's a lot of things that might not be as you had hoped, and it's really hard to know. You have to know what's not only on the ground, but under the ground. If you've got a septic field, you can't drive on that ground. You certainly can't build on that ground. If you've got a mound on the septic system, you certainly can't drive on that area. You certainly can't build on it. So even though you get maybe 3 acres of an acreage, if you don't know exactly where everything is situated, it may not work for what you're hoping to build or hoping to do. Now, if you've got a lot of acres and you're in the back and there's not a lot of neighbors, chances are you've got enough space that you'll work around those areas. But if we go and look at some of the acreages west of town on Sini Trail, you know, Woodland Hills, if you go to the east side, Balmoral Heights, those ones, they're not very large. And so by the time you get your home and your garage and the septic field and stuff in, there's not a lot of extra space for other things. So clients really need to take that into account. So that's kind of just a summary of the things to take a look at. I'm going to just do a little map tour here for you guys, as well as some drone footage of some of the beautiful acreages around Red Deer. So let's go for a little tour. I want to show you where these acreage subdivisions are, some of the pros of each area, some of the sizes, some of the age, that kind of stuff. So I really want to just give you a great feel for what you're going to see around Central Alberta, from both the west side of Red Deer, both to the east side, and there's even some that are north and south, but there's so many subdivisions around the city of Red Deer, and they vary in price, they vary in size. So let's get looking at some of them, and I'll show you the pros and cons of each one. So I just wanted to give you an idea of where all these beautiful residential subdivisions are around Red Deer. And so I just wanted to give you a little sneak peek of where some of them are, and I'll give you just a little bit of information about each one. So I'll just kind of do a little circle of each one. I'll tell you a little bit about information about each one. And if you guys have any other questions throughout this video or afterwards, please reach out to Shalane and I. We'd love to help you out. So the first one that we wanted to touch on is the Mintlaw. And so the Mintlaw subdivision is on the Seney Trail, which is southwest of Red Deer. And it's probably one of the newest subdivisions for acreages. And that one there is roughly 1 to 2 acres. I think there's 14 homes or lots that are available. There might be a few more, but right now there's only a couple houses that are being built. And so that is the newest subdivision within Red Deer, and it's right on the Seney Trail. The Seney Trail is basically old 2A, and there's really nice acreages all along that. It's really a prestige road. And so if you are looking for a brand new subdivision where you can build your own home, you can do whatever you guys want as far as the size of the home, things like that, it's really nice. Now there's not a lot of space, and you're going to be fairly close to your neighbors, but there are a lot of nice ones, lots in that area. You're right close to the Red Deer River on the west side, and you've got a lot of really nice subdivisions along the Seney Trail. So that's the Mintlaw one. That one's nice. And then if you go just on west of Highway 2, just outside of here, right in here, that's Woodland Hills. So I really love the Woodland Hills. It's just on the west side of Highway 2, just south of 32nd Avenue. So you can't miss it. So that one really was, I would say, established in the 70s and 80s. So there's a lot of, larger spruce trees. It's right beside the Crossroads Church, by the county office, Red Deer County office. And it is literally 5 minutes from Red Deer. So this is a really nice area. There's not a lot of movement. I think in the last few years, there's been like 2 or 3 listings. So a lot of people that are in the Woodland Hills area, they stay there and they really like it. But it's a beautiful subdivision, very mature, and it's probably the closest one to Red Deer. All right, so there's a couple other smaller subdivisions that are just beautiful. So if you go west on Highway 11, just on the west side of Red Deer, and then you can take this, I believe it's the Burnt Trail Road, and it's right in here, guys. And there's 2 or 3 subdivisions right in here, and they're called the Bonnydale subdivision, and they are called the Sylvan Creek Estates. And these are on the Burnt Trail, and that's the road that takes you from Red Deer to 781, which is south of Sylvan Lake. So there's where that road is. But there's probably 3 subdivisions in here, and they're all smaller. I would say each one maybe has a maximum of 10 to 15 lots. But if you take a drive on this road, it is beautiful. The subdivisions, the homes, they're large, they're beautiful. I would say they're probably about 15 to 20 years old, but those subdivisions are really close to town as well. They're on pavement, which a lot of people like. And if you take a trip on this road, you will see huge homes, architectural, they really stand out. They're really sharp looking. So this is really nice on the west side. There's not a lot of empty lots in these subdivisions, and they don't really come up that often either, but they are really nice. So take a look at those ones if you like to. They're also on the west side. All right, if you want to look at Lynn Valley, right here, guys. So Lynn Valley is just between Highway 2A and Highway 2 going north of Red Deer. Lynn Valley was also started up in the 1970s, and they're 1 to 2 acre lots. It's really established. and very mature, and it's a beautiful little area. It takes you right on Highway 11A. You can go into Sylvan Lake from here. There's a nice big nursery, Parkland Nursery right there as well. So this here is a really convenient as far as location goes and very mature. So if you're looking for an older home, but you like the 2-acre parcels, Lynn Valley is a great option for you guys as well. And it's right close to Red Deer as well. Now, if we want to go on the east side of Red Deer, we'll just pop over here. So Balmoral, and then you've got Canyon Heights, and then you also have Westview down here. I can make a little happy face. Anyway, sorry guys. This Balmoral, that is one of the larger subdivisions in the east side of Red Deer. Again, super close to the nursery on the east side, close to Canyon ski area. It is literally 2 minutes into Red Deer on the east side, and it's up on the hill, and it has beautiful views. It's really well established, nice homes. Location is absolutely beautiful. If you go over here to Canyon Heights, that one, Canyon Heights is up here, and it's very close to the Canyon ski hill, and it is really beautiful. You get great views. You're also up on the high rise, so you get the sunsets, the morning rises, and it's very well established, and it's a great community as well. And then when you go down to this one, to the Westview Estates, that one has got grand houses. It is, if you want to see Christmas lights, guys, you want to go to this Westview Estates. I've gone there last winter, and it is amazing. Everyone has got thousands of lights on their homes and on their trees and stuff like that. That is one of the newer subdivisions, and it has some really beautiful homes. Now, we've also got a couple subdivisions down in this area, and we've got a couple more down here in this area. So there's lots of subdivisions that have acreages around Central Alberta. There's obviously lots that we've got up here. If you look in Birch Cliff, on by Sylvan, Jarvis Bay, Northern Glenwood, Half Moon, they've all got really nice subdivisions, and those acreages are all 1 acre and larger. So if you're looking around Sylvan Lake, there's so many options as far as residential acreages. If you go over here where there is the Alberta Springs Golf Course, there's one down here that's just south of Highway 11, and then there's a couple more just east of Red Deer, a bit more. So there's probably a dozen, maybe even more subdivisions within probably half an hour of Red Deer that I haven't mentioned, but there is so many. So if you're looking to make the move and you are looking for an acreage, but you want a small acreage, you're not looking for the animal ones, you're looking for the ones where you can just have a bit more space. If the kids want to run around, you want some open air, so you can go sledding from them, or you can get your quad or your side-by-side. These are all opportunities that you can have with your residential acreage. They're not the ones where you're going to have the cows and horses. They're not the ones that you're going to have all the animals and stuff like that. You're not necessarily going to get the privacy, but you are going to get the bigger yards, the bigger homes, and just the open air, stuff like that. So hopefully this has been a bit of a good tour for you guys. I'd love to show more for you if you'd like to know more information, but this just want to give you a quick overview of where you might be able to look. All right, guys, so that is the summary of the video, both with the subdivisions around Red Deer, some of the things to look for when you're buying an acreage, some of the things to maybe you're not aware of. So I've been doing acreages for about 10 years. I really love to help clients buy acreages. I come from the farm background, so I really understand what to look for, what not to look for. So if you're looking for an acreage and you want to move into Central Alberta, I would love to be your realtor of choice. I'd love to help you. I'd love to look after your needs and make sure that everything is looked after. And we really want to minimize any surprises. So hopefully this video has been of some help to you guys today. I hope you liked the tour of the different subdivisions around Red Deer in Central Alberta. And if you have any questions, please always do comments below. Send us a text, an email, or a phone call, and let's try and find you that next beautiful acreage. Till next time, guys, thanks very much for watching.